Hello, and welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I am Savio Rodrigues with Trianz, and we are partnering with CDO Magazine, MIT CDO IQ, and the International Society of Chief Data Officers in a series of interviews. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Phanii Pydimarri, Senior Director of AI and Analytics Products at Stanley Black & Decker. Phanii is a data champion with a history of being a strong strategic asset and a driver of innovation and outcomes with multi-million-dollar revenue impacts. He plays a key role in enabling large-scale enterprise data infrastructure and platforms for driving a data-driven culture by using data engineering, data governance, data enablement, data quality, and data literacy techniques. It's very nice to speak with you, Phanii, today.
Thanks for having me, Savio. Definitely looking forward to sharing my perspective, opinions, and experiences here.
Why do you think so many organizations don't get past the POC phase, and how do you help your customers or enterprise take the leap to truly realize the business outcomes?
So I would, and I'm experiencing that as well, and I'm the first-hand experience of organizations which struggled to get to the next level after the proof of concept for few reasons, quite a few reasons, I would say. The first reason, again, it ties back to the faster to market kind of the expectation from the organizational or the business stakeholders. So being on the data side, I actually am, or an analytics leader, I actually can implement a model to make a case that, hey, there's this particular hypothesis and this model proves the hypothesis right. As soon as a business stakeholder looks at the hypothesis, there is a level of excitement saying, yeah, okay, then we see a particular value in this and we want to run with it as quickly as possible because we don't want to miss the opportunity, which is fair because we want to be faster. But then there is also a level of handoff which is happening right at that time within the MVP stage and a proof of concept stage. That's one reason. The other reason is organizational immaturity when it comes to data and analytics organizations in terms of, say, DevOps kind of standards, right? The framework of DevOps/data ops or ML ops is still evolving and maturing, and not everybody is really mature within that state. I strive, or I recommend teams to really invest that time. Obviously, it will be looked at as an operational overhead, which is not a cool term than really building those AI models and deploying, which is where I think the gap is coming. But the recommendation here is to take that time, really invest your resources in building that MLOps models or MLOps architecture or structure so that you have a proper data, DevOps, as well as MLOps kind of structure in place so that irrespective of what question you're answering, in what form, it could be an AI model, it could be a web application, it could be a data visualization, you still have a standard framework on how you can get from one stage to another stage. Another most important change that I have been trying to work through is the mindset of a product, bringing that into the data and analytics space, right? Can data, analytics, and digital products be thought through in the form of a product management framework? The product kind of mindset kind of brings in a significant improvement in terms of how the feature or version releases can happen and get ourselves moved from a traditional product management lifecycle from ideating to researching to proof of concept or MVP to the scaling of the application or eventual deployment of the application and then maintenance and support of the application too. I don't think many organizations are at that point at this time. I can actually quote Doug Laney, trying his hard to really push the case or make a case of thinking data and analytics as a product kind of mindset, and it's a cultural change that has to happen. But if these can be applied within an organization, I think the product kind of framework really helps. There's a trade-off too. I mean, you can't expect data analytics products to act exactly as a software product, but if you identify the gaps and really use the framework to as an overall frame, as a say a skeleton, and really modify it to fit into your organization, that kind of helps you move from one stage. At least you won't be stopping yourself at POC and not getting to the next level. Hopefully that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Absolutely, it does. And I think the product mindset of data being a product is such a cultural shift. And we are seeing as companies and get more and more familiar with it, the value of the self-discipline, self-governance, and all of that comes into play, and the stickiness could also be there. So totally makes sense. And thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Einstein is quoted as saying, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." In the same vein, to be successful in digital transformation, it requires not applying old mindsets to new technologies. Could you tell us your approach to changing organizational mindsets to drive successful digital transformations?
I would say if I have to simplify it, if organizations can be nimble, can be agile, if they can avoid being complacent with just being happy with what they have, or really not questioning status quo or questioning the status quo and tying everything back to the outcomes, it's how you drive. I mean, what I've told is more qualitative, but then let me put it in a particular framework, right? Like I said earlier, organizations can have two strategies. One is more operational focused, the other is growth focused. Sometimes people call them as offensive strategy and defensive strategy. And almost every organization has both of them, or they should have both of them. They can't survive with one. Within the, let's start with the defensive strategy, more operational focused. You want to identify whether you have an existing opportunity that you could, say, harvest on, right? You could actually use your existing business models. Is there a possibility to use the existing business models and maximize the returns? Can we actually block those disruptive threats from the competition? This could be digitizing some of our existing operational side of the business. This could be transforming or implementing that new shiny ERP system, or this could be implementing that data lake. It's harvesting your existing assets that you already have. So that could be one defensive strategy. Or the other one is completely retreating from the existing market, saying, hey, yeah, I mean, there's less profit in this particular region, so I'm going to minimize my investments or eventually sell that part of the business and eventually retreat. So these two are the defensive side of the businesses, this defensive side of the strategies. On the offensive side, which is more growth focused, you want to really go and capture the entire market. If there is an opportunity, you want to outcompete your rivals. Can I actually outcompete and really go and occupy the entire space, right? You want to be much more aggressive and try to look for strategies that are actually driving. From a digital transformation standpoint, you would want to look at what are those opportunities? Can I actually get into this new market by provisioning a regional centric product or an application that could help me be the first in the space or outperform my competition? Or can I actually go acquire some competition itself, right? I mean, hypothetical situation of Uber buying Lyft, and there is like a combination of one rideshare service. We have seen it in the telecom space where with the T-Mobile and Sprint acquisition, right? That kind of is occupying the market share would be an offensive strategy that you would want it. And the next one is pretty obvious, and we are seeing through some of the companies too, is complete disruption. I mean, something doesn't exist in the market. You want to be the innovator. You want to be the leader. You want to use those emerging technologies. You want to build a product that no one actually built so far. You could basically disrupt the entire market. So the mindset has to be changed from really getting excited about those cool emerging technologies to really looking at the value factor in terms of this matrix that I just talked about. You want to be on the defensive side or you want to be on the offensive side. If defensive, what is your approach? And if offensive, what is your approach? And that kind of gives a clarity in terms of how organizations or leaders should be approaching. And it doesn't have to be at an organizational level. I mean, this could be applied to a small company as small as like 50 employees, less than $1 billion, or maybe even less than 100 million. Or this could be a large company, multi-billion dollars, global presence across the board. But eventually, if the organizations and the leadership really spend time in doing the due diligence, then you would really identify what the opportunity is. And then that ties into what is the digital or emerging technology that you would want to implement in. So a little bit of taking a step back. I don't know, some people may not like this approach, but I think that would be much more reasonable before making those heavy investments within organizations.
I really appreciate the time you have given us today. And I'd like to thank my guest, Phanii Pydimarri, Senior Director, AI and Analytics, Products at Stanley Black & Decker. Thank you so much for your time, Phanii. Please visit CDO Magazine Tech for additional interviews.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.